and welcome to this ETC class about acid and alkaline food balance. I am Shantatma from Finland, and I hope you all can see because the technology is not very developed. We had to really invent something, but anyway, I will explain everything. So there are lists, a lot of lists of food, so of course I will read them through, but if you want to make notes, so I hope that it's enough clear that you can see. So first I want to explain something, that what is this all about. That we all know what is sentient diet, that we all eat sentient food, but there is one bad news, that that's not enough. You can get very sick even eating only sentient food. You can spoil your health eating sentient food, but there is a way to cure the diseases, that if you select the food properly, so you can even cure diseases. And there is something what Baba said himself in a book called Yogi Treatments and Natural Remedies. He said something about the alkaline foods. He said, for example, as with most other diseases, acidic food should be avoided. Instead, alkaline types of food, such as sweet and sour fruits and roots of all varieties and soup of green vegetables are ideal. Again, he said, hence, the more a patient takes alkaline types of food, the better. If 3/4 of the food is alkaline, it will cure rheumatism completely within a very short time. So citrus fruit belongs to the acidic group. Their action on the body is alkaline. And there are a few more about acidic foods.
Can you just repeat the
Yes.
last sentence? Yeah.
Okay.
Recycle food. We have an alkaline method.
It says, so citrus fruits belong to the acidic group. Their action on the body is alkaline. So I will later explain what this means, because you can measure the pH, or so-called acidity or alkalinity, of any substance. And of course lemons and other citrus fruits, when you measure them with some pH meter or some tapes that change color, it shows always acidic. But when we eat them, their reaction is alkaline. So this is the idea of this whole acid-alkaline food balance, that you cannot really decide when you see the food and when you measure the pH. Of course, same is with yogurt. It's acidic, but when you eat it, it becomes alkaline. The reaction in the body is alkaline. So we don't really know what kind of reaction these foods produce. So this is what I'm going to talk about. That when we eat, the reaction will be totally different on our body. And this is just Baba is referring that the citrus fruits itself, they are acidic, but their reaction is alkaline. So that's why they are considered alkaline foods. So there are some, what he said about acidic foods. But it is always better for rheumatism patients to take as little as possible starchy and acidic foods, such as rice, roti, luchi, they mean kind of an Indian bread, etc. And instead to take alkaline fruits, roots, vegetable soups, etc., which are alkaline. So Baba gives here a kind of a rough idea what is acidic and what is alkaline. And it is interesting because the same was verified 100 years ago when this whole acid-alkaline food theory was created. So basically the same what Baba says, that the rice or this different bread like puris which you deep fry, they are acidic. But instead, most of vegetables, they are always alkaline. And of course, green vegetables, they are even better, but I will talk about that later. Due to this excessive acidity, the blood becomes acid-dominated. Being overworked, the blood-purifying organs of the body also become weak, and the patient feels weak. So this shows that acidity in our body or in the blood, it's cause of so many diseases. It will little by little crumble our health down. That first, those blood purifying organs like liver, spleen and kidneys, they will have to work a lot to reduce the acidity of blood. And finally they will become exhausted, and this acidity will dominate in our blood, and it will manifest in so many diseases. In joints it will become rheumatism, in skin it will become eczema, even finally it can become even cancer. So basically acidity is cause of most diseases according to yogic treatments. If you go through that book, you will see that most of the diseases, diabetes, asthma, whatever, it's always Baba is referring that no acidic food, instead take alkaline foods. That's the message. So I just want to here explain that why to take alkaline food and what are those alkaline foods. And here is the last one. This overacidity of the blood also causes swelling and consequent pain in different parts of the body, especially joints. The name of this condition is rheumatism, so this refers again to joints, that this acid gets accumulated, especially in joints, and creates inflammation and finally deformation. So now we go to the theory of acid-alkaline food balance. So this is all about so-called pH, and this pH, it's a kind of abbreviation from the Latin words pondus hydrogeni. Its rough English translation is power of hydrogen. So hydrogen is the first, it's the lightest atom, and it's when it is ionized in a solution, the solution becomes acidic. So less hydrogen ions there are in a liquid, the less acidic it is. And when there is no hydrogen ions in the solution, then we say that it's totally alkaline. So this is actually the idea of this whole pH. So it's only about hydrogen ions in a solution, and it goes from 0 to 14. So this 0, it means basically it's like a sulfuric acid, so that's the total acidic thing. And on the other end, this 14, it's a total alkaline thing. So everything, every solution or liquid what we find, it's somewhere between this 0 and 14. So we can measure the acidity or alkalinity of all liquids or solutions, basically using those, I mentioned these tapes that change color, or nowadays there are electrical meters that you just put the meter in a liquid and it will tell what is the pH. And there is an interesting thing that this is so-called logarithmic scale. So it means that when we have one step from 1 to 2, it increases tenfold. So it means that pH 1 is 10 times more acidic than pH 2, but it's 100 times more acidic than pH 3. So it's like tenfold each step. So you can understand that even a small change in the scale will, it means a tremendous change in the acidity or alkalinity of that substance. And there is for example, human blood is slightly alkaline. It's from 7.34 to 7.45. It doesn't change much, so even a little, when it crosses like 7.40, it means that there is it's already starting to become acidic. 7.45 is already very acidic. So you can understand, because it's not only that it's 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 10, but it's actually it's 10 times or 100 times when you go in that scale. So although it's a very slight change, but still it means that there is a big difference of these other ends. For example, in the case of blood. But our blood is very well regulated or controlled. I will explain how little later. So I will just go some basics. So yes.
On the first line up there is healthy body pH range.
Yes.
Is it not the blood range?
No, it's not blood. It's just basically it's all tissues, muscles, and fat. And anyway, there are many actually liquids of our body which are either very acidic, like of course inside the stomach it's basically hydrochloric acid. So this healthy body, it means tissues, not this liquids, urine or things like this. Yeah.
How can you measure it to find out your body pH range?
It's basically it's possible that if you take so-called biopsy from the muscles, you extract the liquid. So when you have overwork, there is a lot of lactic acid. So it means it makes the muscles acidic. And when you have taken rest, this lactic acid disappears, so it becomes more healthy. So it's possible to measure, and of course, when a person dies, you can measure anything during autopsy. Okay, so thanks to Germany, actually, this whole pH. Food balance, it was created in Germany actually. There was a German doctor called Lahmann who published his research on the effect of food on blood already in 1891. So he formulated the basics of acid-alkaline food balance. But those lists of food and the more thorough research was done by Swedish Dr. Ragnar Berry, and actually he worked in Germany, so he did his study here in Germany. He was studying the same. He was studying, I understood, that under this Dr. Lahmann, and he got this idea and he developed this subject a little further. So he created this acid-alkaline food balance theory in 1920s. So basically all these lists of food, what I am going to show, many of these foods, they come from his research, but of course nowadays they have added a lot of more, because you can get all kind of exotic fruits and vegetables and or whatever from the shops. So of course he had like 20 basic foods that he did research on, but nowadays there are hundreds of them, because of course these methods of processing foods, they have also changed. So I believe that on 1920s they were eating pretty ecological food. They didn't have so much fertilizers or chemicals, but nowadays it's changed, because when we eat processed food where they add preservatives or whatever, it always becomes little acidic. I will show it later anyway. So the idea of this acid-alkaline food balance, as I said, is that you cannot really decide when you see the food, what is the reaction of it in the body, because when we eat the food, already there is a very strong hydrochloric acid in our stomach, and it kind of burns this food in a basic substances that are taken into our blood. So the reaction of the food on our blood, it can be totally different. So something that is very acidic by itself, when it is burned by our digestive system, it becomes actually alkaline when it enters the blood, and vice versa. There can be something which is alkaline, and when the digestive system transforms it, it becomes acidic. So you cannot really see from the food itself. So this Ragnar Berry, he used a method that he was burning this food, and he was measuring the pH of that remaining ashes. So he, of course, all the substances were there. There were all the minerals were still there. So he measured what is the pH of these ashes. But of course nowadays there are more developed methods which are imitating our digestive system, how it burns. I am just using this word burn because actually it doesn't burn with fire, but it burns with enzymes and acids. So basically the food reduces in the very basic substances, just like ashes when you are burning something. So this is the way how this theory works, that the food, when it is digested, becomes something totally else, and you need to know the pH of that something totally else to know its effect on the body. So they have done research, they have imitated the system of our digestive organs and measured the pH of these remaining substances, minerals, or breakdown fats or proteins or whatever. So here is something maybe this is very well known to you when you are promoting vegetarian diet, but there are some animals eat only acidic food and some animals eat only alkaline food. And the interesting thing with animals that they always select the right food. You don't often see cows hunting mice or rabbits for their food, and also you very seldom see lions taking any roots and eating them. So somehow it is programmed in animals that they will always find the right food, and otherwise they will get very sick if they don't eat proper food. And I have always thought that the animals, they always find right food. They don't eat wrong foods. But only human beings can give to their pets wrong food or their cattle. We can make our dogs and cats or cows and pigs very sick by giving them wrong food. But when they live in the natural environment, they always select the proper food. So when we see these animals, their external appearance, we can kind of decide what kind of food they eat. So there are 4 types of animals. Well, human beings are not animals according to Baba. So three types of animals plus human beings. So I will just go through the simple things that are in many books. First, there are the meat eaters, which are these big dogs and cats, lions and bears and tigers, wolves, or etc. So their external appearance shows that they are meant to eat meat. They have sharp claws that they can catch the prey and they can tear the meat from it. They have canine teeth that they can do the same. They can bite. They can give a very deadly bite to their prey. They have sharp molars because they are not eating cooked meat. They are eating raw meat, and it's very difficult to chew. So that's why their molars, they are very sharp. So I have always seen that human beings, when they cannot eat meat, they are cooking or roasting it. Because our teeth are not meant for eating meat. Our nails are not meant for it. So that's why human beings, they have invented knife and fork and cooking and roasting. It's not natural. So we are doing, in a way, an unnatural way. We are eating unnatural food prepared in an unnatural way. Because in animal world, the physique of animals, it's always suited to the diet that they are supposed to eat. This is an interesting thing, that their mandibular joint is at the level of the molars. So it means that when they open the mouth, it opens very wide. Like, for example, you have seen how crocodiles or alligators, when they open their mouth, it's really huge. And even snakes, they don't even chew the rats. They just swallow it completely and they digest it for many days sometimes. And even when you have seen cats and dogs, when they are yawning, so their mouth opens very wide. This is because the mandibular joint is at the level of molars, so it enables the mouth to open very, very large. Their saliva does not contain any enzymes, so they are basically only chewing the food and swallowing it, or not always even chewing. Like I said, that snakes are just swallowing rats, and they are all digestion is done in their stomachs. They don't digest the food in their mouths. Their stomach pH is 1, so it means very acidic. So the concentration of hydrochloric acid is very strong in their stomach. Their ileum, or so-called small intestines, is very short, because when you eat meat, it starts decomposing already in the digestive system. Because, for example, if you leave a piece of meat on table, so in the morning, so already in the evening it starts to smell. So you can imagine that when you are eating the same stuff, so what happens in the stomach, if you don't digest and absorb it quickly, it starts to decompose in your system. So that's why they're small and large intestine, or they are very short, so that they can just extract it very quickly out from their body. While Anyway, I guess I don't need to convince you because you're not meat eaters, but you can just, if you give lectures on vegetarian diet, you can just take some ideas from this lecture. But basically I have been given the same lecture in different countries, and although it's mostly related with yoga, so I have had a yoga seminars in Estonia, Russia, wherever, so of course they are not only vegetarians, so this is I feel that something to shake them a little, so you can use the same fact if you want to also give a shock to people. And like I said, that their large intestines or colon is also short, and their urine is concentrated. So you have seen that dogs and cats, they are often marking their territory with their urine, and when they go, they are sniffing always that where the other of their species has gone. So next there are grass eaters, so they are mainly cows and horses and sheep and whatever. Their nails have developed into hooves, so they don't have sharp nails because they don't need. They just use hooves to dig maybe something underground, or mainly they use it for walking, because some of them, even like horses, when they are sleeping in standing position. And their canine teeth is usually missing, so that's how human beings can when they, I don't know that English word what you put on the mouth of a horse.
A bit.
Yes. So it enables you to put that harness on the horse that you can control, because that metal part goes to their mouth in the place of missing canine teeth. And their molars have so-called cusps, so it means that they are not only chewing, they are actually grinding the food. So their mandible, it doesn't move only up and down, it moves also sidewise, because these cusps, they are they are grinding that food that they are eating, because actually when you are eating grass, it's very hard to digest. That's why, for example, cows, they have 4 parts of their stomachs. That first it's one which is full of water, and they just swallow the grass, and it just stays there for some time, become softer, and then after that they chew it for quite long time and swallow it into another stomach, and it's kind of a complicated process. And even when you see stool of horse, they often contain grass particles, so grass is very difficult to digest. You need a very developed system for that. Their mandibular joint is higher than the molars, so it means that their mouth is opening quite little compared to the size of their head. Saliva contains enzyme, it's called Alkaline in English, or other name is amylases. So the same amylases is secreted by our pancreas, but the name of the amylases that is secreted by salivary gland is called Alkaline. It's same enzyme, but it's just different name. Stomach pH is around 4 or 5, so it's less acidic than with meat eaters. Their ileum or small intestines is very long, because they need to, I say that grass is very difficult to digest, they need to absorb all what they need, so it takes time, naturally it takes time, so that's why their ileum, and also their colon is very long, and their urine is very watery. They produce a lot of urine and it's very watery. Then comes fruit eaters, and actually gorillas, they are fruit eaters. Only 1% of their diet consists of insects, so basically they only eat fruits. Their nails are short, they have large canine teeth, but they are not sharp because they are not using them for eating. They use it mainly for scaring each other, so when the males are fighting, they are showing their teeth, so that's the main function of those large teeth. Their molars have also cusps, because their mandible moves in a similar fashion, that it's up and down and also sideways, that you can really chew the food properly. Saliva contains same enzymes. Stomach pH is about the same, it's 4 and 5. Ileum is also long. colon or this large intestine, it's long and sacculated. It means that it forms of a kind of a narrow part and large part, narrow part, large part, because this is because of the movement. The colon moves, so it pushes the inside material all the way. So when it is long, it needs this very developed muscles to move the food inside of it, because otherwise with these meat eaters, when it is very short, so by the pressure of that material it just goes ahead. But when this colon is very long, it needs proper muscles to move the food, and their urine is very watery. So now if we compare human beings, our nails are also very short. We cannot really, as I said, we cannot really capture any prey with our nails. They are useless actually for that. Our canine teeth, they are very short. I mean, it's the same. We cannot tear anything apart with those teeth that we have. Our molars have cusps, and that's why we need to go to see dentists time to time, because more complicated molars we have, more chance there is to develop the caries, that our teeth start to decay.
What is cusp?
Cusp, it means a kind of a small hill. So it's not sharp, but it makes a more like a small hills. Our saliva contains the same enzymes, and actually our salivary glands, they are very complex. We have like 6 different, both sides under the ears, and then under the tongue, and also here under the mandible. We have a very complex system of salivary glands. So I always tell to people, chew your food properly, because our system is meant for chewing. I mean, our mouth, our complex salivary glands, they are meant for something. We should not just eat in a very hurry, that we just take a bite and swallow it. That's not the way, because we have this complex system so that it will start to digest the food already in our mouth. So when we chew the food, the saliva got mixed with the food, and it already starts breaking the proteins or fatty acids or whatever already in the mouth. That's the idea. So we should chew the food properly. We should really spend time eating, not eat in a very hurried way. And also Baba says in Yogi Chikitsa, I guess he does not say that you should spend long time eating, but at least we should take proper rest after eating. That if we eat hurriedly and we don't take proper rest, so we get some diseases. That's the message of Yogi Chikitsa also. Our stomach pH is around 4, 5. If it becomes less than this, if it becomes more acidic, so then we get this over-acidic gastric ulcer. So that's one sign that there is too much acid when you get heartburn, ulcer. They are not. If we eat natural food, we don't get these problems. Only if we don't eat proper food, then we get ulcer or whatever disease related with digestion. Our ileum is also very long, and the surface of that ileum is extremely large, because it makes a lot of small folds there, because it means that we need to really absorb all the minerals, vitamins, and the food that we are supposed to eat. It's not very easy to digest. We are meant to eat roots, fruits, vegetables, and even raw vegetables, and they are not that easy to digest. So that's why our intestines, it's a very complex system. It has a very large surface that it can absorb all that material that we need. And our colon or large intestines is also very long, and it has a developed muscles there. And if we don't take enough fibers, which are usually in grains or vegetables, then there is too much pressure inside, and there is a disease called diverticulosis. I will explain about that later, but that's a disease of meat eaters. Those with wrong diet, they got this, because our system is not meant for that kind of food. It's meant for different food, and it's this colon is meant to move that food very slowly. It uses the muscular movement. It's not the pressure, but it's the movement that moves the food there. So that's meant for food that contains a lot of fiber, and meat does not contain any fiber. It's just, like I said, that these meat eaters, the food moves there by its pressure. It doesn't contain any fibers. And also our urine is very watery, so usually people do not mark their territory, but maybe some males do it in Saturday night.
Oh my God.
Generally.
The graffiti people.
Sorry?
The graffiti people, they mark the
Yes,
territory.
but not with urine. Okay, so now I guess you understand the point that we should eat food that is meant for our body. So now I will explain a little about this acid and alkaline foods. So this is a microscopic picture of healthy blood. These red circles, they are red blood cells that carry the oxygen all around our body, and these two bigger ones, they are the white blood cells. So when our blood is slightly alkaline, the negative charge of the outer surface keeps these red blood cells separated. So they have a negative charge on the surface, and two negative charges, they are kind of pushing each other apart. So that's why they remain separated. And this is needed because our arteries end on so-called capillaries. And these capillaries, they are very thin. They might be a diameter of one red blood cell. So they need to be separated in order to enter these capillaries. So all our tissues, internal organs, skin, whatever they are, they contain those capillaries so that these red blood cells can carry oxygen to all tissues, because oxygen is needed for metabolism, for all our cells to live. Now if we eat wrong food, what happens? Blood becomes acidic, and this negative charge will cease, because the acidity will cause this negative charge to disappear, and these blood cells will clot together. So instead having nice separated cells, we got these clots of several cells, and what happens? They are not able to enter the capillaries anymore, and they cannot take oxygen to tissues, and then people start to feel something. They start to feel heaviness after the meals, or anyway general heaviness, depression, tiredness. And it's a very common, especially in Finland after Christmas, when people have eaten a lot of ham, so they just want to sleep for many days, and often they feel depressed, and they make all kind of promises for the January, that no, they don't drink any alcohol on January, and they will eat only light foods on January. That's very common in Finland, that you make all promises for January, because you are so depressed and so heavy with the food that you have eaten during Christmas time. And I tell you that that food that we eat during the Christmas is very acidic in a way. So that happens, I mean, and of course people who eat it all over the year, the same happens, that they feel heavy, tired. They just they need to take caffeine, they need to drink a lot of coffee or these energy drinks to get themselves moving. This is not natural way. If it gets worse, they start to use amphetamine and other things anyway. But that also happens in the city, especially in big cities, that because we need to work, and food makes us tired, so people start to use artificial means to keep themselves on the page of that society. So now I will talk a little about kidneys, because I say that the pH of blood is very well regulated, and that's regulated by kidneys. Kidneys are the organs that regulate the pH of our blood. So whatever acid we take, it's usually duty of kidneys to get rid of these extra acids and waste material and create urine that we actually extract those waste material in the urine. So this is a kind of a schematic drawing of how our kidney works. So I will explain a little because when we go ahead, you need to understand little how it works. So this little thing here, it's called glomerulus. So that's the basic unit of the kidney. So there always goes two blood vessels, artery goes there and veins come out. So basically all the blood in our system, it goes through kidneys. I don't remember that we have a volume of 5 liters of blood, that how many times per day, it's really something like, was it over 10 times in a day it goes, all that blood goes through our kidneys. So kidneys basically, they extract all waste materials from our blood, and these acids, they are one waste material. So all this blood goes through this glomerulus, and then they secrete so-called primer urine, several hundreds of liters. So they extract all liquid part. They only keep these cells on the bigger proteins, and they go away to the veins. But all liquid and smaller particles, they enter to this system, and it goes to this tube here, which is called Henle's loop in English. And there maximum of that liquid is taken back to our blood, so that the remaining portion is only few liters. So basically most of the liquid, or this lymph inside of our vessel, it goes through this system. So first it is secreted out, then it is taken back to blood. And this part is very important, because here we decide which part to keep in the urine and secrete out from the body, and which part to take back to blood. So basically the waste material should not be taken back to our blood, but they should be secreted out from the body. And there is an interesting relation, I will come to that later. So you can see here that if the pH of the blood didn't change much, 7.34 to 7.45, the pH of urine 4.5 to 9.1. So there is an extreme difference, and actually diet is causing that difference. If you eat acidic food, your urine is very acidic. If you eat alkaline food, your urine is very alkaline. So that's only controlled by, of course some disease can alter it, but mainly it's only because of the food. And I remember when I was studying in medical school, we did all kind of nice experiments on each other. We didn't use much any animals for test, but we did this test on each other. We just injected different things on each others and drank different things and measured the urine and like this. So one test was that we were supposed to drink, we were supposed to see that how this acidity or alkalinity of food changes the content of urine. And it was something that we were supposed to drink a lot of water and take this ascorbine acid, or other group take this sodium bicarbonate to make the urine alkaline, and then we took this acetylsalicylic acid, or this one painkiller, and see that how much was secreted into urine. And I remember that this doctor who was leading that experiment, he was commenting, "Oh, you must be vegetarian because your urine is alkaline." And that's how I heard it first time, that it's a fact actually in medical school, that if you eat vegetarian food, your urine is alkaline, and vice versa. But they don't know actually the deeper meaning of it. But there is an important meaning why it is like this, and this next slide will show it. So as I said, that waste materials will have to be secreted to urine, and those waste materials are mainly urea, uric acid. They contain nitrogen. They are the waste materials of our metabolism, and they are mainly acidic. I mean, uric acid, of course, as the name says, it's acidic. Urea is acidic also, and as I said, acidic food will make urine also acidic. And now comes the interesting thing. I don't know how much you much you know chemistry, but this is so-called Henderson-Hasselbalch Equation. So this equation shows that how much of when the pH of the liquid is something, so how much of those molecules get ionized or don't get ionized, because that in this endless loop, those cell membranes, they will only let ionized particles through, and those which are not ionized, they will go out from the body. And now if the urine is acidic, according to this equation, these acidic waste materials, they will get ionized and they will go back to the blood. So this is a very interesting thing. When your urine is acidic, the acid waste materials go back to your bloodstream. They don't get secreted out from your system. But if, on the other hand, your urine is alkaline, all these acidic waste materials, they don't get ionized. They remain as they are, and they cannot enter through the cell membranes. They are secreted out from the body. And this is a very interesting, I mean, medical science should use more of this knowledge, because it's basic chemistry. It's no any pseudo science that we often hear when people talk about health and alternative therapies or whatever, but this is just basic chemistry. And medical science, of course, they know that when uric acid gets accumulated in the blood, we get some diseases like cold. Hundreds of years ago, that was a disease of very rich people in the Europe, that the kings or whatever, they used to suffer because they were eating very rich food. They were eating also food containing a lot of uric acid, like intestines of animals or small fishes and things like this. So that's the main way how you get this disease. But I can tell you it's very common disease today. You don't need to be a rich person to get this disease. Just anybody can get it when they eat wrong foods. And like I said, that intestines, small fishes, then those shrimp. I think the word is shrimp for those small insects in the sea. Beer, if you drink a lot of beer, it contains also this uric acid, but also peas contains some of it. So those foods should be avoided by patients who suffer from the cold. But there is another interesting fact, that the high concentration of uric acid is also a risk for cardiovascular diseases. So nowadays, heart specialists, they will always measure this uric acid of the blood, because it will show that a person might have an increased risk. And they don't know the mechanism how it is, but there is a lot of scientific data that shows that it is the fact that the higher concentration of uric acid there is in your blood, the higher risk there is for cardiac attack. It's just a statistic. They don't know maybe the biochemistry, but it's individual risk anyway. And now a little about this how we can decide what is the pH of our body. I am always telling my patients to measure the pH of their urine, because there are already made kind of sticks for it, that you just put that sticks into your urine, and the color will show that what is the pH of your urine. And it should be done in the morning, because if you are drinking a lot of water in the daytime, the urine gets diluted, but during the night time you're not supposed to drink that much, so this urine is concentrated, so it shows better. And it's also, this urine is accumulated through that 8 hours, 6 hours, how many hours we sleep. So it shows better what happens inside our body. So acidic urine, it means that there is a lot of acid load in our blood, and we should change the diet. We should do something for that. And also the other fact is that in order those waste materials, acidic waste materials, to be secreted out from the body, we should drink enough water, because they are secreted anyway to the watery portion of the urine, and the higher the concentration is, there is a so-called phenomena in, I don't know, biology called osmosis, that if there is a very high concentration, those chemical substances, they tend to go through these membranes to the less concentrated side. So therefore, the more we drink water, the more diluted our urine is, and more these waste materials they will remain in their urine, and therefore Baba also advised us to drink minimum 3 liters per day, and especially if you have skin diseases, you should drink up to 7 liters per day. That's a lot, I can tell you. And if you drink really that much, and even if you drink 3 liters, you should make sure that you take some salt, because we are always losing salt to our urine. So the more we urinate, more salt we are losing. So it's better to mix a little lemon juice and salt to the water. And this is also because this lemon juice makes the water alkaline. So it's better to drink lemon water with salt than just plain water. Yes.
The lemon any hour of the day, in the night also, and salt, or is better in the morning?
You can take any hour of the day, it doesn't matter, because it's just a medicine, it's alkaline. Yes.
When you say we need to drink 3 liters a day,
Yeah.
has it got to be specifically pure water or lemon water? Or does that include like herbal teas?
No, plain water, because that's another thing what I am telling to my patients. Like Baba says that we should eat maximum 4 times a day. So I consider that even a cup of tea or orange juice or whatever, it's a meal, it's food, because it contains sugar, it contains proteins, whatever, and it activates our digestive system. So you should eat only during meal times, and rest of when it is no meal time, you drink only water, because this lemon doesn't contain any sugar, it doesn't activate the digestive system. So lemon is the only fruit that is not considered as food. It's just it's basically a citric acid there, so it doesn't contain any sugar, so it doesn't activate our digestive system. But whatever little you take, even one candy or one cup of tea, it activates the digestive system. So in my opinion, that's already a meal. So you should maybe, when we eat these 3 meals, you can drink one. You can have one extra snack time, but not more than that. And rest of the time.
You're very strict.
Yeah, but I follow it myself also. Yes.
What is the effect of having too much salt on the pH? If you drink more water, will that remove?
Well, I mean, salt has a different pH, because there are salts and there are salts. So when you take this normal table salt from the salt, that's pure natrium, that's pure sodium chloride, and that's very unhealthy actually. But if you take sea salt or this Himalayan rock salt, it contains a lot of other minerals than this sodium chloride, and it's also in those lists that the sea salt, this mineral salt, it's slightly alkaline because it contains some alkaline minerals. So it's always good to take other salt than this refined table salt. I will never advise you to use that refined table salt, even for cooking. It's better to use natural salt.
Yes. And what about the potassium? Because I've heard that in order to excrete salt, to get rid of excess salt, you need potassium salts to get rid of the sodium. Can you say anything about the potassium-sodium balance?
Well, I mean, most of the salts in our blood is always sodium. So this level of sodium is around 140 micrograms per liter or something. But this potassium is very less, it's around 4. So we should take little potassium per day, but not much. So maximum, like you see this 4 compared to 140. So how much there is a difference? It's almost like 30 times. So I mean the ratio should be 1 out of 30. So 1 portion of potassium and 30 of sodium. So you should not take much potassium anyway, because our body doesn't need that much. But both of them are needed, because they are actually where they are most needed. They carry the nerve impulses in our nerves. This potassium-sodium balance makes our nerves function, and if we suffer the lack of either one of them, so we we can get cramps and what is that called? Arrhythmia of heart and things like this when it gets severe. Yes. Yeah.
Why do you put salt into lemon water?
Well, Baba said that when you add salt to something acidic, it makes it alkaline. So basically it's for our teeth. That if we take lemon water, it will spoil our teeth because it's so acidic. But when you add that salt there, it kind of changes this ionization. So the citric acid, in my opinion, it's not ionized anymore. It doesn't harm our teeth. That's one reason.
It becomes a sodium citrate. There's a chemical reaction. You get sodium from the salt becomes sodium citrate, which is a very good. It's a purgative, so it helps you to flush out toxins through the.
Yeah.
The 3 liters of water that you were talking about, they don't have to be all lemon water.
No, not. But I mean that if you take a lot of, like I say that if you take like 6-7 liters, so then you need to supply. You need to give a little sodium because otherwise you are using so much sodium in your urine that can become dangerous after several days or weeks.
It's a bit embarrassing, you know. I did that, and I always go to the loo, and my boss was saying, "What's going on?" We have the cameras, you know. I was working in a law firm, and then I have a client, and I was going to the loo all the time. What am I doing? It's okay in weekends, you know, but not when you're working in an office. It's embarrassing.
Yes, but your body get accustomed to it. That your bladder, size of your bladder increases the more you take this urine, so you can, more you take water, so you can hold more.
How much salt are we supposed to take?
I would say that when we have 1 liter of water, you put half of the lemon and 1 teaspoon of the salt normally. But of course, when you break fast, you should put more. But daytime, 1 teaspoon to 1 liter, that's already enough.
And half a lemon?
1 liter?
Half a lemon, yes. But like I said, that when we are breaking fast, then it should be stronger. But normally that's already.
And more salt as well?
Sorry?
And more salt as well?
Yes, of course.
Does the amount of water you need to drink also vary depending on where you live and the climate?
Sorry?
Does the amount of water you need to drink also change depending on the climate?
Of course.
Everything,
So when you are in a tropical countries, this 3 liters becomes actually it's too little. That if it's very hot, like in India, you just shoot 4 or 5 liters because you don't get that much urine because it goes out of your body by sweating, and also you lose sodium through sweating because this sweat is also salty. If you taste it, it's salty, so you lose sodium also by sweating.
What kind of salt we should use?
I say that the sea salt or mineral, Himalayan mountain salt, or yes, Well, black salt is not. It's good for if you put it on a salad or food, but because it contains a lot of sulfur. I mean, if you smell black salt, it smells like sulfur. So you don't mix it with water. You just very little when you prepare food you can use, but not take it a lot during the day. Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little bit late to maybe said it already. Do you advise to eat, to drink during meal, or
No,
20 minutes before,
never.
20 minutes later?
Never during the meals, because I have always explained that there is a certain concentration of hydrochloric acid in our stomach, and that concentration is needed to make an enzyme active. It is this acid is not digesting the food, but this acid makes one enzyme active there. And if we drink just before eating, it dilutes this concentration of acids, and these enzymes do not work properly. So I have always, because generally when people eat at homes or restaurants, they always drink mineral water or water. It's very bad because it dilutes the acid of your stomach, and your digestive system does not work properly. So when you drink water, you don't. When there is a meal time, you stop drinking like half an hour before meal time, and then when you eat, you wait like half an hour or 1 hour, and then start drinking again. But never during the meal.
What if you get choked?
Sorry?
That's actually what I'm also following, but I heard that Baba said when we eat, the stomach should be half full and with food, and 1/4 with liquid, and 1/4 with air. And that's what
that's the normal Indian system, but it doesn't mean that you need to drink water, because there is a lot of water in the food. I mean, when you take soup or dal or whatever, so there is already water there. So of course, I mean, if we eat only dry food like potato chips, so of course we feel that we need some liquid, but we don't eat that dry food. There is always some liquid already in the food. Okay, so now we move a little ahead, because this is called acid-alkaline food balance. So it means that it's not only alkaline, but like Baba said in that when he talked about rheumatism, that 3/4 of the food is alkaline, then the disease will be cured. So according to this acid-alkaline food balance, the proportion of acidic and alkaline should be 1 to 4. So only 1%, maximum 1% of acidic and 4% of alkaline. So that is the original idea of this theory. But because this is a logarithmic scale, so it's not 1 to 1. So there is one example. To balance 1 glass of carbohydrated soft drinks, which pH is around 2.5, you need 32 glasses of alkaline water. So it's not 1 to 1, it's you should consider this logarithmic scale also. And a second thing, most of people who have been eaten wrong food, acidic food, their whole system is so full of waste and toxic materials that they got these diseases like skin diseases, heart diseases, blood pressure, rheumatism, diabetes. They should take strict alkaline diet, no acidic foods at all. And that's what Baba tells in Yogi Chikitsa, that when you suffer from certain disease, you avoid all acidic foods. Like for example, when you suffer from skin disease, you should not take sugar, because sugar is very acidic. And there are many examples if you go through that book. And now comes the interesting parts, that what are actually this acid and alkaline foods. So we start from the pH 5. These are the most acidic foods. pH 5, artificial sweeteners, aspartame. So this aspartame is one of the most dangerous food, because it's one of the most acidic. There is some scientific reason why we should not take aspartame. Then 5.5, beef, carbonated soft drinks, cigarettes, drugs, I mean allopathic drugs, white wheat flour, I mean processed wheat, whatever processed food there is, it's always more acidic than natural. So white flour, that's extremely acidic. And also bread made of that white flour, this we call it French bread in Finland. I don't know what it's called in English, this white bread. Yeah. Okay. So that's very acidic. Then goat, lamb, pastries and cakes from white flour, pork, white sugar. And I would remind that white beet sugar is the worst. And if you want to take sugar, you take cane sugar, raw cane sugar, because even Baba said that the beet sugar does not have any food value, but cane sugar has. So this cane sugar is always better than beet sugar, but because of EU, we have a lot of beet. Most of our sugar is from the sugar beets.
What about the molasses, the brown molasses of the sugar?
I mean that that depends if it's from beets, it's acidic. It doesn't have much value because anyway this sugar is just refined form of it. But of course you can take molasses of cane sugar, that's always better. And if you want to take if you want to find a best sugar, I use only palm sugar and date sugar because they are not actually sugar, they are just sap of trees. And it's very good actually because it contains this part that makes this tree alive. I believe that it contains a lot of life force also, so I would advise to take palm sugar. You don't see the difference of the taste. You can make nice cakes with the palm sugar. There is no difference. That's I think it's mentioned here that it's also less acidic. Then beer, well, this brown beet sugar, chicken, beer, chocolate. Now comes interesting chocolate, I mean brown chocolate, cocoa, coffee, custard with white sugars, jam, jellies. I don't really like this strawberry jam in the morning. It's very acidic. Acidic liquor, white pasta, rapid semolina, table. Here is refined table salt, especially iodized. Black tea, turkey, wheat, bread, white rice. White rice also, it's also acidic, like Baba said in Yokichi pizza, that rice is acidic. White processed vinegar. Then we move ahead. Yes, table salt.
Table salt, that's very
acidic, yes, because of the iodine. For some reason, I don't know.
Brown rice.
sea salt is completely iodine.
It comes here somewhere. I'm sure that because there are many different salts. Then comes cigarettes. They also make acid reaction in the body. I don't know because this is a US list that we don't like cream of wheat. We don't, I guess, have that here.
Cream of wheat, what is it?
I don't know. Like I said, that this is from USA, this list, so they have some things that we don't have here. Yes.
Can you say something more about the vinegar?
There are many vinegars, so apple cider vinegar is the best, and it comes here in the list. And then fish, then fruit juices with sugar. So when you buy fruit juice, you should always see that there is no sugar. Then comes processed maple syrup, sulfur, molasses, pickles, refined bread of corn, oats, rice, and dry cereal, refined cereals like wheat pix, corn flakes, shellfish, wheat germ, whole wheat foods, wine, sweetened yogurt. Because here it's really amazing when you go to food shop and try to find plain yogurt. It's very hard to find. You can find always this small yogurt, and they add gelatin and they add sugar. It's totally garbage what most of the yogurt that they sell in the shop. Yes, of course.
Natural yogurt.
Yes.
In the UK also, they have plenty.
Yes, but when you compare the
We make it
amount
at home.
of those sweet things and the basic,
Yes, you're right, you're
yeah,
right, you're correct.
that you in some shops you need to really
Yes.
search that where is that plain yogurt.
There is soya yogurt now.
Sorry?
Nice.
Between the plain.
Plain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Soya
a,
yogurt.
fruit yogurt has always sugar. I have never seen a fruit yogurt without sugar or, I mean, sweet. Anything except plain yogurt, they usually add sugar there.
Cheese.
And then green, and then 6.5 green banana. So when we take anything that is ripe, that is not ripe, it's usually acidic. So these bananas, I prefer that bananas should have this small black points,
Yeah.
because then it means that it's perfectly ripe. But when it's hard to open it, when it is green, you should not eat it. It's not
We
healthy,
don't eat
really.
green bananas.
But here in the shop you can find anything because they import it.
Not in the Far East.
Yeah. Of course there, but here I think we have not even seen your mangoes or other fruits here. What we get in our shops, it's usually raw.
Yeah, we are teaching now people know.
Then buckwheat is also a little acidic. Then hard cheese, I mean the sharp cheese means like hard cheese. Whatever cheese you have, but it's very hard and ripe, so then it means usually that it's more acidic. Corn and rice bread, eggs, ketchup, mayonnaise, oats, whole grain pasta, and potatoes with no skin, so when you peel out the skin, it's only carbohydrate basically, that white portion. It's only starch, nothing else, so it's acidic.
So we eat the skin with the skin.
It's always better with skin.
Wow.
I have eaten
old potatoes.
Doesn't matter. I have eaten it for 20 years and not got sick really out of that.
What is in the skin? It's good with the skin.
Sorry?
Alkaline. What's in the skin of potatoes?
Oh, well, I mean that most of these vitamins, they are under the skin, and when you peel the potato, you remove the vitamins and you keep only the starch. This white portion is nothing but starch. So,
You first cook and then peel better?
well, it's of course better because then it naturally the skin comes out and that layer under the skin remains there. But when it is raw and you peel it, you remove everything.
Okay, we don't peel anymore.
And then of course the popcorn and whatever potato chips you have refined, it's also acidic. Also basmati rice, it's better than white rice, but still it's little acidic, and also jasmine rice, brown rice. Somersault soya sauce. Well, you can eat little, but not most of the plate rice, because he said in your pizza that rice is acidic. And wheat bread. Now here comes such food that you can eat. Because this is 0.7.
Finally, I'm not surprised.
So these are actually starting to become good. Barley malt syrup, barley, bran, cashew, cereals, cornmeal, cranberries, fructose, honey, lentils, macadamias, unprocessed maple syrup, homogenized milk, dairy products, molasses, unsulfured molasses, nutmeg, mustard, pistachio, popcorn, plain with butter that you make yourself, rice or wheat crackers, rye bread, pumpkin and sunflower seeds, walnuts, blueberries, Brazil nuts, salted butter. This means the soft cheese like mozzarella or feta cheese.
Why egg white there?
Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, this is nothing to do with whether it's sentient, because also mushrooms are alkaline, but there is another reason why not to eat them. So it has nothing to do with this acid or alkaline. And dried beans and dried coconut and goat milk, olives, pecans, plums, prunes, spelt. I mean, the spelt, or it's better to use spelt if you want to have wheat flour. So it's better to use spelt because that's more alkaline than
what
this.
What is spelt, brother?
Dinkel. It has different name in different country, but it's the kind of a Stone Age wheat. Because wheat actually for many centuries they have developed it, and it's nothing natural. I heard that this normal wheat that we have, it has something like 20 times more chromosomes than it originally had.
Wow.
So they have breeded it really unnatural. So it's basically starch.
I have a question about
Sorry?
I have a question about dairy.
Dairy.
Products and all that. Because in the animal world, normally animals don't drink other animals' milk. So is it good that we as adults we take milk?
I don't see any harm in milk because I have always given this logic that if even God was stealing butter and yogurt and raising cows, I mean Krishna. So if even Krishna was so attracted to cows and milk products, so how we can say that we should not?
I heard
Baba
that
drink
if you
milk.
drink milk, the calcium you have in the milk, you need more calcium from your bones to digest it, then you have the effect of it. So in Germany, there's the highest level of drinking milk and the highest level of this
It's not because of the calcium, it's because of the proteins. So higher protein intake, the more calcium you lose. So it's not only, you cannot get osteoporosis with milk, you need to eat meat for that. So those who take a lot of proteins, they suffer from osteoporosis because this excessive protein is bound with calcium and secreted out from the body. So it kind of eats up the calcium because it needs to be secreted. It's just a chemical reaction in the blood.
When you say taking lots of protein, are you saying sentient protein or animal protein?
Any protein, because as I said that even with sentient food you can become sick. So if you take a lot of cheese and milk, you can become sick.
How much is it? How much?
Well, I feel that if we take like 2 cups of milk or cheese made of that every meal, it's not too much. But if it becomes more than 1 liter per day, so certainly it's too much.
But we can get this protein also from beans and grains, is it right?
But that protein, in my opinion, it's different than animal protein. That it's not secreted out from the body in the same way. That it's animal protein that counts, what I heard.
What about soya beans?
It's also, it's of vegetarian origin, so it doesn't make the same reaction much tofu as normal people eat meat. So maybe if you eat a lot of tofu, same reaction happens, but like I said, that nobody eats that much, so it doesn't.
I wonder if the tofu you're talking about, is it totally safe to eat it? It's not gene manipulated?
Well, of course you should know whether it's gene manipulated or not. So usually in EU it's written.
It's not allowed in the EU, or is it?
It is allowed. So you should be careful with that.
It doesn't say actually.
Well, if it's organic, then it is not gene manipulated because they cannot use the stamp organic anymore. Yes.
I know it is a long, but if you can answer something now or later on. For one that is hyperactive, let's say, does much physical activity and sports, how can you, with the diet, let's say, still you suggest these things, or there should be some adjustment maybe?
Of course there should be adjustment. I mean, if you don't do any physical, actually that's one reason for disease, that less physical labor. Like in the case of diabetes, Baba says that those who do intellectual labors, they get diabetes, not those who work physically. So if you do only intellectual work, you should take less proteins, and if you do physical work, you should take more proteins and carbohydrates.
Like for example, I know that pasta in Italy, especially, it's very popular, pasta or rice. But one that does this physical activities, then somehow you compensate with it.
Yes, but in that case you should take less. I mean, more active you are, you can tolerate acidic foods, but less active you are, it's better to take alkaline. Here is, this is crossing this 7.0, so this is towards alkaline. Almonds, peanuts, artichoke, barley malt, brown rice syrup, Brussels sprouts, I think that's together, cherries, fresh coconut, cucumbers, eggplant, honey, leek, miso, mushrooms, okra, ripe olives, onions, homemade pickles, radish, sea salt comes here also. Most spices except mustard and nutmeg, they are slightly alkaline. Taro, tomatoes, sweet brown rice, vinegar, water chestnut, amaranth. Because I have always said that amaranth, millet and quinoa, they are the best grains that you can take.
The what?
Amaranth, quinoa, and millet.
What is amaranth?
It's a one grain from Peru or from South
Oh yeah, I
Africa.
think I know.
It's a grain.
Grain.
Quinoa and
Yeah,
millet.
quinoa.
From Peru.
What is taro?
I think it's some Asian food. I'm not actually sure because I just got this list and I say that there are a lot of exotic things which I don't even know what they are. So. Artichoke, chestnuts, egg yolks, Essin-breed, I don't know what it's that, goat's milk and wheat, horseradish, homemade mayonnaise, millet is here, olive oil, quinoa, rhubarb, sesame seeds, soybeans, soy cheese, that means tofu, soy milk, sprouted, well, tempeh and tofu comes there also, less sweet tomatoes, yeast, plain yogurt. So yogurt is alkaline anyway. Then we move 7.5 sour apples, bamboo shoots, fresh green beans, beets, bell pepper, it means this paprika, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, carrot, daikon, that's also some Asian vegetable, I guess, I'm not sure which. Fresh ginger, sour grapes, kale, that's Asian I think, kohlrabi, lettuce, orange, parsnip, peach, peas, potatoes with skin, pumpkin, raspberry, sapple, I don't know what is that, strawberry, squash, pumpkin, sweet corn, tamari, that I know that it's kind of a soya sauce, tamari. Turnip, apple cider vinegar comes here, as I said that it's alkaline. So one thing, more sour, it's usually like sour apples, it's acidic, sweet apples is alkaline, but with citrus fruit is vice versa. Oranges is less alkaline than lemons. I don't know why, but it's something interesting. Because 8.0 sweet apples, apricots, alfalfa sprouts, arrowroot flour, avocados. Anyway, I will always recommend to eat avocados because they have very essential fatty acids as well. Yes.
Just on the point of oranges and lemons, I've always heard that oranges are contraindicated in rheumatism.
Sorry?
I've always heard that oranges are particularly contraindicated for rheumatic conditions, inflammatory conditions.
I will have to see because I think in Jokicikis Baba didn't say, he said that citrus fruit in general.
Yeah,
he didn't say that no.
Fruit,
Yes. He didn't ban oranges.
No, he said sweet and sour.
Yes.
But he does say you should have a little bit of salt.
Yes, with lemon you should put.
And orange also. Any citrus.
Yes. And also with yogurt. I mean, when you put a little salt to yogurt, it's acid, alkaline. And where we are, ripe bananas, berries, carrots, celery, currants, dates, and fresh figs, garlic, gooseberry, grapes, grapefruit, guavas, herbs, leafy green, lettuce, nectarine, peach, pears, peas, persimmon, sweet pumpkin, vegetable, sea salt, spinach. You find a lot of, I mean, mostly only garlic is tamastic, but most of all other they are basically sentient.
But also the pumpkin is not very sentient. And the tamarind.
It's sentient.
What is wrong with
Tamarind is
pumpkin?
sentient.
Yeah.
I think Baba said not to eat so much pumpkin because it's not
Yes,
very
not
sentient.
too much. Well, I don't think that.
No, I never heard.
He didn't say that it's not
Never said.
sentient, but I know that there is something else that you should not take a lot of.
I heard something about the pumpkin that if you take a lot you can get leprosy.
Huh?
Something is
It
there.
was
I know.
one Didi saying yes.
There's something new.
But we don't take these quantities. Huh?
Oh, that's Thursday.
Okay, then becomes the most alkaline food that you can take. 9.1 lemons and watermelon. So basically, the more juice, the more watery the fruit is, more sweet it is, more alkaline it is, except lemons. So 8.5 is acar, cantaloupe, cyan, dried dates and figs. So when you try figs, they are more alkaline than fresh ones. I don't know why, but because coconut is different, dried coconut is more acidic and fresh is alkaline, but with figs it's different.
Dried dates are very alkaline, you say?
Yeah.
Dates, dried
It's like
dates.
pure sugar, huh?
Yes, but it's natural sugar.
And
It's
that's
not
okay.
processed. Yeah.
Excuse me, can I say one thing? Could it be that the melon, for example, in the night it can become acidic?
Well, it doesn't say so, but you should not take cold food in the night. So there are certain food that in Ayurveda they are cold, like cucumbers, bananas. You should not take them in the evening. It's not because they are, or tamasic or something, because you can catch cold. They make a cold reaction in your body, and during the night time your protective system is weaker, so you can catch cold if you eat them nighttime. And I guess same is with watermelons, because it's very cooling according to Chinese medicine. If you have a heating body, you should take these ones to just to cool your system down. Kelp, carengo, kuchu, root, limes, mango, melons, papaya, parsley, seedless grapes, watercress, seaweeds, asparagus, endive, kiwi fruit, fruit juice without sugar, grapes, passion fruit, pears, pineapple, raisins, umeboshi plum, that's a Japanese, I understood, and also vegetable juice. So this was the list of this acid and alkaline foods. So as you can see that most sentient foods are alkaline, but usually when we look our plate, in my opinion, there is too much rice, there is too much bread, there is too much pasta, and too little vegetables, especially green vegetables, too less salad.
Yes.
So it's my advice to take less rice, less bread, and more salad, more vegetables. Because also in Charya, Baba said when he listed the secrets for long life, yogurt and raw foods. So when you take raw foods, like I said, that our system is meant to eat raw foods, like raw vegetables and fruits, and we are supposed to chew them properly. So if we follow that, it would be ideal. But of course, it's more tasty. It's easier to eat when it is cool, when it is warm. But basically, raw foods are always better than processed, cooked.
And no more cooking. It's easier.
Well, it's possible to survive with that. Yes.
Can we get this list? Is it possible to have this list on
Can I have a
mail
list?
or something? Or
Yes.
Email it to us.
copy or
If you put your name,
Yes.
you can read it. Maybe in that medical table, I can leave a paper. That
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can sign.
And yogurt with when it's mixed with honey, is it not very healthy anymore, or is it still okay?
Well, I don't see that how honey would add anything, because Baba always said that you should take yogurt with, honey with liquid. That you should not,
Yeah.
never eat honey plain.
Pure. Yeah.
That you should always mix it with something. But anyway, yogurt is not very watery, so I feel that it's better to mix honey with hot water, for example, or herbal tea if you
And
want to
yogurt
take.
with salt.
Yes, yogurt with salt.
And this means something I see here, like sour fruits, like pineapple or oranges or maybe grapes. They don't need to be acidic, right?
No.
They're sour.
No.
There's no link between sour fruits and acidic.
No, because that's the whole theory about that you cannot decide when you see the fruit that whether the reaction is alkaline. That I would say that all fruits are alkaline, and basically all vegetables, unless you peel them and process them. But with these grains is different. That grains also, many grains are acidic, like wheat.
Vegetables in general and fruits are mostly alkaline.
Yes. So
I have a question, because here it's Here it says that raisins are extremely alkaline.
Yes.
What if you mix raisin with your muesli? Does it make the muesli more...
It's always better.
It's
yes.
better, no?
Yes, sure.
Can you make it neutral? Can you neutralize acid by putting raisins? That's basically my question.
You can do it.
You have a secret recipe.
Yeah, well, but there are also some alkaline. There is even spelt muesli.
Yes.
Yeah. And I prefer this oat muesli. Oat flakes, they are anyway better than wheat. So.
Okay, then you're okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
With vegetable juices and that is, wouldn't it be alkaline now? Wouldn't that be taken?
Sorry?
With vegetable juices and that is,
Yes.
alkaline now, wouldn't that depend on the type of vegetable? Because that seems too generic just to say all vegetable juices and
I mean, it means when you are freshly squeezing, because there is a kind of a machine that you can press fruits and vegetables. So we use it in our natural hospital for liquid fasting, that there is a 2-day liquid fasting with fruit and vegetable juice. So it should be always fresh, that you should not keep it.
if you make it with some vegetable that's acidic, wouldn't that make the juice acidic as well, not alkaline?
What do you mean acidic?
Like if you choose a vegetable that's a acidic
Such
vegetable, such as some nuts, wouldn't the juice also be acidic?
Well, I must say that I don't remember any acidic vegetables.
But if there was they are said,
Well, I would say that of course it's the same than I mean, if there is acidic vegetable, the juice is also acidic, but I mean that generally when you extract the juice, it is more alkaline than the starchy part that remains. Because like I said, that with potatoes, when you peel the potato, that white part, it's mainly starch. And if you extract the liquid is more alkaline, but this potato flour, in my opinion, it's less alkaline because it's pure starch. It's pure starch.
some of the vegetables, yes, that is the same as less alkaline than wheat, and when it puts vegetable juices as
Well, I mean that it's just to indicate that if you take the liquid part of any vegetable, it's always more alkaline than the remaining part. Yeah.
Given this really nice knowledge that you've given us today, and given that Baba said if you want to do something good, we should do it straight away, is there any immediate way you can see that we can apply this to our retreat food?
Oh, Dada is there. Dada. What can you say? No need to cook, just raw food.
Just raw food.
Well, I mean that you can select, of course, yourself more salads, but I cannot, because I guess it's also about, it's something about finance also, that if you, like, I would comment one thing, that in our natural hospital, that 1 week treatment, it's costing like 700 or 800 euro, and it's because we have only ecological food, and it's, we do everything ourselves, sprouting, everything is fresh, and also we press this fresh juice, so it becomes very expensive. So there is no alkaline, there is no acidic food, we don't eat bread, rice, things like this. So of course, if you want to have a retreat like this, the food will cost a lot.
So is it healthy to avoid acidic food totally, or it's good to keep some acidic?
I mean, if you have a healthy body, you can tolerate.
No, it's not about tolerating. Is it healthier? The more acidic, the less acidic food we have, the healthier we are. And even if we have no acidic food at all whatsoever.
Yes, that's the idea. Yes. We don't need any acidic foods, but it's mainly, I mean, this ratio that it's 1 out of 4, that because people feel this attraction, they want to take rice or this white wheat. things, or even coffee and things like this. So it's just for them that those who have desire to take acidic food, they should remember always this ratio.
And what about fried food?
Well, generally fried food becomes acidic.
Even if it was alkaline in the beginning.
Well,
I mean, if we fry this great big list here, it becomes acidic, right?
well, I mean, this frying makes all kind of nasty things. It makes those carcinogens or whatever if you deep fry it. So maybe it's not if you, for example,
You talk deep fry.
maybe you can fry, for example, pineapple. I guess it doesn't become very acidic, but it's why to do it anyway.
What about fried potatoes? I prefer potatoes.
I would say that if they are peeled like French potatoes, they are totally acidic.
Question to raw food. I like to eat salad in the evening, and I feel it's very good. It has a good effect on my mind, and also in the morning when I wake up, I'm very active. But then I heard, I don't know who said it, that Baba said that salad in the evening is difficult to digest, and it's not so good for
It
you.
is, that's true. Gives you food. And it's also, it's cold food. So I prefer that in the evening you should take like warm soup, because that's easy to digest and it's warm. It gives a warm in your body. But if you take especially these cooling vegetables and fruits like bananas or cucumber in the evening, so you should not be surprised if you have sore throat in the morning.
So it's only about that it's cool food. It's not really harming.
No.
It's easy to digest. Raw food at night is easy to digest.
No. Well, I mean that of course your system can digest that if you eat like 8 o'clock in the evening and then go for a walk and then go to sleep like 11 o'clock, so I feel that there is no harm. You have time to digest it.
Isn't it something also, for instance, if people are constipated, they should not eat the vegetables raw, they should eat them cooked.
I would say no.
Because
It's
the
not,
raw will aggravate the condition. I think I heard from somebody who was
I
something
cannot really say because
it's
they
in
have
your
fiber.
medicine.
Yeah, diabetically that makes sense.
Because they have fiber anyway.
What?
Diabetically, it makes sense.
It
I can
makes
explain
sense.
to you the diabetic reasons behind that. It does make sense. To do with water and raw foods.
So there are, at the end there are some research, well I will skip this very fast because this starts to get boring. So this is just to show this is actually published in different scientific magazines. This is just to show that our doctors, they have all the knowledge, they know what is right and what is wrong, but they don't have courage to convey it to people really properly. And nutritional therapists, they basically have all this data, but still we eat very unhealthy. So this says that coffee is related with osteoporosis, this one. Then there is coffee related to ovarian cancer in this study. Sugar related with breast cancer in this study. And this is a vegetarian's mental health. A vegetarian diet produces higher level of behavior than diet containing meat when all types of calorie intake are equal. Vegetarians were shown in one university study to score higher on examinations than meat eaters. Vegetarians also showed less frustration and lower levels of irritability than meat eaters. And then there is fruits and vegetables related with respiratory infection, that those who take more fruits and vegetables, they have less respiratory infection. Then this is quite clear that when you take more eggs and meat, you have a higher risk for heart attacks, this study shows. Then there is a fiber intake and heart disease, that more you take fiber, I mean fruits and vegetables and grains, there is a less chance for heart disease. Then there is a meat or fish consumption increases the risk for ovarian cancer, and animal fat shows association with colon cancer in this study. here is the aspartame that headache, depression, irritability, diarrhea, nausea, hives, rash, and menstrual disorders have all been reported in people using aspartame. And also aspartame stimulates appetite, leading to overeating, which sabotages the weight control program. So if you want to lose weight, don't use aspartame, that's the message. Here is a vegan diet and asthma, that if you have asthma, this is a Swedish study that it's a very interesting that there was a group of patients who followed a strict vegan diet, and they drank like water or herbal teas up to 1.5 liters every day, and after a year they reported that their asthma attacks became less, and some of them could give away their medication also.
Excuse me, why citrus fruits were excluded?
Well, because they are generally considered as people have allergic reaction to citrus fruit, so they forbid all fruits and vegetables that were only fruits that could cause allergic reaction. So that was only because of this study. And yes. Then there is a vegetarian diet and diabetes. They did a study on this Californian Seventh-day Adventists who are vegetarian, that they have less percentage of diabetes than normal US citizens. And vegetarians have less percentage of kidney stones. And also I mentioned about this diverticular disease, that when you take more fiber, and also this says that non-vegetarians have more diverticulosis than vegetarians. This study, and that researchers reported almost 50-fold increase in the risk of those who frequently eat meat and rarely eat vegetables. So fiber prevents diverticulosis. And this is interesting that there is this multiple sclerosis disease, which is a disease of a brain, and it's related with meat eating, especially pork. That those countries, like Muslim countries, where they don't eat pig, so they have very little multiple sclerosis. That it's the disease of the Western countries anyway.
Also, vitamin D, lack of vitamin D.
There is also a study on vitamin D later, but not on this one. And there is in China they make a study on how vegetarian diet, that those following vegetarian diet, they have less retinal arteriosclerosis and degenerative disease of the retina of the eye. So I mean like eye degeneration. So this is the recommendation.
Can I ask
yes.
about some special pills, like I take, for instance, spirulina or wheatgrass or beer hefe? I don't know if you're familiar. What do you think of these kind of nutritional
Supplements.
Well, I would say that in I'm always advertising our natural hospital in Finland, that we also use this something like kochi or spirulina also, that there are some very good, they are very rich of vitamins, and only thing that they are imported from other countries, like most of them come from South America, so of course you should consider that there is worth of it. But anyway, I believe that they are especially in the detox, which we keep those detox programs, so they are beneficial. Yes.
A lot of people with meat diet, they ask how vegetarians can please keep 12. Do you know where we can get that?
Well, I would say that it's more complicated than what science knows, because I was surprised because in that Finnish version I have a study on vitamin D also. I will see if I have it somewhere, because there is there is a study done on this vitamin D anyway, that it was a US.
I said B for bear.
No, I mean that I am mentioning it first, that is vitamin D, because often people, especially those nurses, say that if you have a vegetarian diet, it's dangerous if you are pregnant and have a child and like this. So in USA they did a study that they were monitoring the vitamin D levels of vegetarian mothers who were breastfeeding their children, and they were surprised to see that their levels of vitamin D were higher than with meat eaters, and they just concluded that it's more complex than we ever know, that these vitamins are not actually so simple than usually we have known for 20 years or 30 years. And same is with this vitamin B12, that they always say that vegetarians should use them, but how many vegetarians anyway use? How many of you use this artificial B12? I don't use it, and I mean most of those vegetarians whom I know, they don't use it, but still we don't have those diseases related with the lower vitamin B12. So I think it's more complicated. It's not so simplistic that you follow vegetarian diet, you need this, otherwise you get sick and you die and blah blah blah.
You cannot get it.
Anyway, you'll
You
die.
cannot get it through.
Well, there are some products where they add this. It's mostly these yeast products that you can eat, but still, like I say, that I don't really think that it's wrong.
Different kind of sprouts.
I've heard, I don't know, but and all this seaweed.
Is sour milk the same as yogurt? Sour milk? Yogurt?
Yes.
Feeling. Some coffee is good.
Yes.
Is there any chance that one that is not vegetarian now, that there's like is waiting for implantation of this cornea? I don't know in English if it's the right name.
You mean coronary?
No, the
Eye.
operation.
Not retina, but this outer part of the eye.
Usually they get from dead bodies, you know. When it's
Yes, yes.
Is there any possibility of becoming vegetarian that it can improve, and if it doesn't have any chance to get this?
I mean, it's different because it means that it's not related with diet when it's the outer portion of the eye. Only this retina is related, this bloodstream portion of retina is related with the diet, but mainly that's destroyed. I think it's cornea.
Yeah,
Yes.
cornea,
It's in Latin.
cornea.
So mostly it's either infection or some eye infection or some disease that destroys it. So it's not related with diet. Yes.
I read about a recent study about vitamin D, and they found out that because people are using sun cream with high filter, the people are not really getting enough sunlight. So they found out that the harm of this high filter is worse than the benefit of this high filter of the sun creams. And they found out that vitamin D, for making vitamin D, the sun is more important than the nutrition.
Maybe, because like I said, that it's far more complicated, and there are some researchers that are humble enough to acknowledge that their knowledge is not, they don't know fully all these mechanisms, and even they say something about the thyroid gland, they don't fully know the reaction of all these hormones. So I believe that this theory of vitamins, it will be written differently within the next 10 years. They will tell a lot of different facts, because that's the interesting thing with this Western medical science, that is changing like every 20 years or 10 years. So many facts that they were telling on 60s or 80s, now they laugh at those things. So I believe that after 10 years or 20 years, they will laugh off those things what they tell today. So that's just happening. Yeah.
What I heard recently is that regarding leaky gut syndrome, the beans are very bad. Like the saccharine, it's like soap. It opens up the cells of the inner surface, and though the gut becomes a little bit, the inside goes into the blood more.
Which was the syndrome?
Leaky gut syndrome?
I have heard about that, yes.
So the intestine gets a little bit.
Yes, I know that it causes this immunochemical reactions in the blood and things like that.
Because they say you should not eat any beans and also not bean products.
It's interesting because there are some, like I know that there is a genetic diseases related with beans that, for example, in the Middle East, there is a certain beans that people should not eat because they cannot genetically digest. They can develop a syndrome, and it's funny that many beans they are related with diseases. I don't know why, but there are some, and also I remember because I was surprised that because in Charya Baba says that there are two kind of there is Kesari and what was the other which are tamasic? Masur and Kesari dal. And I found out that this Masur dal, I think Masur dal is the food of poor people in India, and it's actually this. It's even told that it's poisonous for the body. That you should not. The scientists they tell that it's poisonous. It contains some chemical, some natural chemicals which are poisonous. But in India, poor people, they will have to eat it because they don't have anything else. So with many beans, it's the same as lentils, that they contain something that our body cannot contain.
I can give an example of this in Sardinia, is in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Many families, for example, in the same family, some beans they can be dangerous. Some members can be like poison for them.
Yes, I know.
And the others they can eat.
Yeah.
It's like this long beans. I don't know in English now.
They're huge beans. They call them fava.
Fava beans.
Yes,
fava beans. I know that there is a disease called favelsum or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's common in Mediterranean area compared with other part of the world. In that case, you should never eat those beans. That it's really dangerous. But it's like I say that it's interesting that these beans anyway they are not so alkaline, and often they have this poisonous reaction in the body. So I would advise not to eat beans or lentils. That only yellow mung dal. I only prefer tur dal, of course, but even chana dal is. I don't know.
What about the chickpeas?
They are good.
They are good.
Yes.
Garbanzo, chickpeas.
Yes.
The general beans. So don't eat bean in general, you said?
Kidney beans.
Yeah, I mean these dried beans. I said that many of them have poisonous reaction. There are many beans that you should not take. So in my opinion,
kidney beans.
Kidney beans is different.
But it's also with kidney beans. You should boil them very carefully because if they are raw, it contains some poison. So it's funny that with beans there is always some restriction, and even not within Charya, but it's written when you buy these kidney beans that you should boil them properly.
What about peanuts that are a bean actually? Huh?
They are beans.
They are beans. What about peanuts?
Well, they are alkaline. Even Baba says somewhere in Yogi Chikitsa that peanuts are good, or peanut milk is good.
They are by saying that many diseases are related to beans. Okay, you eat it once, maybe it doesn't do you any benefit, but you get the diseases, I suppose, when it is your diet, you eat it regularly, I suppose. You don't get a disease by eating it once or twice, for example.
Well, if you have genetic kind of a difference, like we were talking about this Mediterranean area, then you get it immediately when you eat.
Oh, yes.
Usually people they get how to say tests.
Yeah. Okay.
But generally, they say that the Mediterranean diet is healthy.
It is because it's olive oil, olives, soft cheese. I mean, feta cheese is soft, and also fresh tomatoes, not imported ones, but the fresh. So more local food you eat.
A lot of pasta.
Yes.
But they eat a lot of pasta.
And they have a lot of sun, which is very beneficial also.
Lot of
Sunlight. Sun.
sunlight.
Can I say something, for example, about the olive oil? I think if you take too much, it's also not too beneficial.
No, so anything you take
even
too
if it's
much.
cooked, for example.
Anything too much
Many people they believe that taking much oil is not
much,
is
but
that
I
is
mean
good.
that if you take instead of butter you take olive oil, so it's always better. And if you want to hear about this essential fatty acids, so linseed oil is, for example, very good. Hemp seed oil, but you should take only one spoonful per day. It's not that you mix it with food, but you take it just as a supplement.
What seed?
Linen seed or hemp seed.
What about grapeseed oil?
I have not heard about that.
Hemp seed.
Yeah.
Oh, linen, okay.
Pellava.
Pellava.
Yeah,
This is very interesting. You see, there's a lot of questions.
Well, I know when it comes to food, then sentiments come
Very
up.
hot topic. What to eat, not to eat.
Is it anything about fish in wintertime?
Fish.
Fish in wintertime should be rejected.
No, I haven't.
It has less than 10 minus, I think.
I think it's just an excuse for stone.
Or maybe for the Eskimos living in Siberia.
Well, if you go strictly, if you read Charya very strictly, you will find this list of tamasic meat of large animals such as cows and buffaloes. It says like this. So basically it's true, because I have talked with many dadas, that these small animals like deers in the forest, this meat is sentient,
yes.
but we should not, because it goes against ahimsa, to kill them. So that's why we should not, because it creates negative karma, but it's not harmful to the body. So there are many ways to see it, so it's not only what we eat, but also related with ahimsa. So I mean that it's not the whole picture that we see that all meat is tamasic. It's not fully true, but it's easier to say to people like this when you give a lecture, because when you start to give those exceptions, then you need to explain a lot.
So you think you can get the site or something that you can check
Sorry?
information?
Which site?
You have a website with these things, or
there are many websites actually.
do you
Where
have all these things you made now? Or
I can show these links.
show links?
So really, Baba said one of the tips for the long life is yogurt.
Yes, I can show it to you.
Swiss yogurt.
Yogurt and
Sharada. Baba was fasting 4 years by yogurt water. Curd water.
But this for vegan, vegans should know that, Joe. That Baba actually recommends the vegan should know.
But he fasted with this curd water. 4 years. So there must be
But
something.
when you drink one cup of coffee, it is harmful or something like this?
I mean, 1 cup is not, you can balance it, but if you, I think the study showed that if you drink more than 6 cups per day, so then it
It's okay for 1 cup, it's okay.
6 cups
here are the links, you can copy.
That's good.
So how many cups? 6 cups a day is too much.
6 cups is okay. Yeah. 7 is bad.
Okay, 1 is okay.
But beans? Det var liksom,
Ja, men då får vi
mer
ta
bönor.
kika.
Jag köpte sådana i något fokus. Väldigt proteiner. Bönder, tänk på bönder.
Ja.
Bönder har alltid varit rart.